Welcome into my small little wood shop. Now, even though my garage is pretty big, it's actually 32 by 34 feet in total. So I have two full bays here, which this side is where my wife parks her car. And then I got a bunch of crap in the edge over there, which we're not gonna really talk about. And this is my side that I keep for the shop, but I'm also keeping enough room so I can pull in my Corvette and have enough room so I could park up in here with that. So really, I only have about 18 by, I think it's about 18 by 14 feet or so for my actual workshop. So this area is actually the bottom story of our house. We technically have a 3-story house because our house, as you can see, is on these big wood pylons because of us living right next to the coast. The Mississippi River is actually right behind my house. So the house was originally just built on pylons and all underneath here was wide open. So me and my dad actually spent, it was a few months, but we closed in all underneath here and it's still unfinished. I still have to do the walls, still have to do the electrical, got a little bit of plumbing to do, but it's gonna take a little bit of time to get everything done. But in the meantime, I just kind of have my shop set up to the best that I can. Now, throughout the process of this video, I'm going to talk about some of the plans that I have with this shop, along with stuff that I've already done. There's a few things in here that I already have videos on projects that I've done in here, which I will go ahead and tag up in the corners as they're mentioned. However, I still have a lot of plans to do with this shop. It will be fully insulated, and I'm going to have actually Mr. Cool system on both sides of the shop so it can stay nice and climate controlled in here, which of course Mr. Cool has not sponsored me, but I bought that system. It's been over a year now. It's just trying to find the time to get things done. Working a full-time job, being a dad, and trying to make some YouTube videos and other hobbies on the side, time is a hard thing to find. But eventually we're gonna get it done. We're hoping, after the holidays, I'm gonna get all the electrical done and start insulating and putting the walls up, and then things will move. I still have to paint the outside, which I'll show some shots of the outside, and you can kind of see how we're right off the coast, and a before shot of how the house was on pylons just right after it was built, and then how we closed it in, and kind of some of the plans that we're gonna have with that. But we're gonna go ahead and start on the front of the shop. This is a laser engraver that was sent to me by Creality. It is their Falcon 2 Pro. It's a pretty sweet machine. To be honest, I don't use it a crazy amount. It is a good thing to have in the shop if you can use it, but it's definitely not a tool that is needed by any means. And then over here, I'm gonna have a bay set up for all my detail equipment. I got plumbing ran, so I can put it's that pressure washer right there. That pressure washer is going to get mounted onto the wall right here, and then I have a spigot for it there, and then a spigot down here to fill up buckets. So this will eventually move somewhere else, and I'm going to have the pressure washer set up here, and I'm going to build cabinets here so I can have all my detailing equipment set up here, and then I'm going to have a wall-mounted shop vac right there. This spot of the shop is kind of meant for my car, so I'm going to have everything set up so I can take care of it here. This was a little table that I just built with some scrap I had laying around, specifically just to keep the laser engraver on, and I can keep my laptop right here. It's also kind of become a catch-all, but I do have all my battery chargers here, which eventually it's going to have its own spot. But I have a little bit of storage underneath, so I keep my track saw, my big router, and the accessories for that, along with some pieces for the laser engraver. Now I try to stay pretty budget oriented with all my tools that I have in here. There's not many tools in this entire shop that I have paid full price for. Almost everything I got on sale or got used. Really the only thing that I ever bought full price was I have a Festool Domino, which as everybody knows, they do not go on sale basically ever. And then the other thing was my miter saw. I paid full price for the miter saw because it just didn't want to go on sale. I was waiting and waiting and it never did go up on sale. So I finally went ahead and bought it. But everything else in here has been bought either used or on a sale just because I'm, try to be as money cautious as I can with a lot of stuff in here. Now, eventually I want to get some better tools, but it's all going to come with time. So I'll move on to this wall here and kind of talk about some of the things that I have going on this side. So this is one of the kind of good parts of having exposed walls at the moment. All my clamps fit onto the fire blocks, so that's an easy way to store them. And then I have, just random stuff kind of hung onto the wall just for the meantime. So these are all the clamps that I have at the moment. You know, eventually I plan on stacking up on some more, especially parallel clamps. I feel like those are always super good to have, but it's just kind of a mix of everything. Some Harbor Freight, some Irwins, you know, just a little bit of every brand. I'm definitely not a brand focused kind of person. If the money's right, I'm buying it. This is my little Festool corner because I only have 3 things from them, as I kind of mentioned before, but I have the Domino, one of their Rotex sanders, and then the top sustainer is all the actual dominoes themselves, as you can see here. It's a great tool to have, definitely a luxury item. You don't need it by any means, but the hype is there. I understand why everybody hypes this thing up. It is worth it. Moving on to my planer. I have 2 separate videos on this planer situation. So I have a video for the planer cart itself, which I will tag up in the corner. And then I have a video for the helical head that I installed in here, which I will also tag up in the corner and put a link in the description of where I got it from. I bought this DeWalt planer for sale on Black Friday last year. I got a crazy deal on it. I think it was like right around $400, or maybe it was less than that. I'd have to actually go pull it up and check. However, I love this thing, especially with adding the helical head to it. It just made such a difference, and this machine eats through anything for the most part. I know a lot of people have snipe issues with the DeWalt planer. I've really never had any. I know a lot of people solve it by putting like a melamine bed on it, you know, just a sacrificial piece they'll put on there. But I haven't had the need to. I've had absolutely 0 issues with this thing, and just putting that helical head on there made it 10 times better. Now I have this machine hooked up to a good old Harbor Freight dust collector. This is their 2-horse dust collector. I also got this for sale. I think I paid $200 for it, and it came with everything you see here except for the hoses and blast gates. I bought those off of Amazon. Also something else super cheap. Now I have this set up on a remote. So all I have to do is just press the button and it turns it on, and we're good to go. Can use my dust collector. I got the blast gates set up. So one's to the planer and one's to my joiner. So just for, you know, maximum suction, I can close one off. Now, eventually this machine here is going to go get placed all the way in that corner, that dark corner over there that you can't really see that well. It's going to get placed over there, and I'm going to run piping on the ceiling to, you know, each one of the machines so I can have everything on its own thing, which will be a lot nicer. Some people knock the cheap dust collectors. I don't really know why. Maybe once I add a lot more length to it, it won't be as good. But I mean, I see people all the time make these into 2-stage dust collectors, and they work great. I haven't had any issues with it, and it works great for what it is. You got to have a good trash can. And that's really it with that. And then I have on my walls, you know, just like I said, there's a bunch of just random stuff kind of hung for the meantime. But this is my track saw track that I keep up here. And then I have 2 lights just kind of for recording, because this is the main spot. If you've seen the channel for a while, this is the main spot I kind of speak in. The lighting faces this way. So whenever I'm standing here, I'm lit up nice and well. Now, if you've been paying attention to the ceiling at all, it kind of is hidden a little bit, which is what I wanted to. That's why I painted everything black. But this is where I have my camera gantry system, which I do have a full video on this, which I will tag, but it is absolutely awesome for filming. You know, I know it's a very niche thing that is needed, but I can put my camera on this piece here and go from any corner of the shop all the way up to the garage door over there and film everything from any angle. And I mean, this is one of my favorite things that I've built so far. Like I said, I do have a video on it. It got absolutely no love. I'll put a card up here if you guys want to go check it out. It is a pretty cool build. It's not my idea by any means. Definitely one of my favorite additions I've put in here. Moving on, let's talk about this joiner I got. It is a Powermatic 54A from 2001. I bought this thing, I think I paid $600 total for it, which brand new. I think they go for like $1,200. I'll post some pictures of what it looked like before, because it wasn't in the greatest condition, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was really just the bed that was pretty rusted out. It took about an hour or so with some Scotch-Brite pads and a little bit of sanding to kind of get this thing nice and smooth and looking good again. And I also have a helical head in this too, which was sent to me by Find By Tool, which is also the same helical head that is in my planer. I highly, highly recommend it. It's not as needed in the joiner as it is in a planer. However, it's nice to have on both of them. And as you can see, it's on casters along with everything else in my shop, including my workbench and table. The only thing that's not on casters is my miter saw and my bandsaw, which that will change. But I have everything on casters, so I can easily move it, especially we are a very hurricane prone area. So I can easily roll everything into a trailer, if push comes to shove and I have to. Like I said before, I don't have power down here, so I don't have AC down here. So I have a fan there and a fan there, which of course right now it's pretty cool outside. I'm in southern Louisiana, so it doesn't get crazy cold, but I'm not having to run the fans right now because it's not too cool. But we'll move on to the miter saw. This is the Bosch Glide, the 10-inch version. I absolutely love this thing. I've had zero issues with it. I know some people complain about deflection, but as long as you take your time and you're not really just yanking on the handle, it's really not bad at all. Now, the dust collection situation is definitely not the best. However, this is the adapter that Shop Nation makes. This thing is a game changer. The only downside is if you're working on a large piece and this little piece of rubber here kind of gets pushed, the dust will go behind that and make a bit of a mess. I was actually cutting a piece of aluminum to make my gantry arm here, and it kind of exploded it. So I haven't emailed him or anything to try to get another one. I'll probably end up just buying another one, but it still does work perfectly fine. However, this miter saw is awesome, and I also have it hooked up to a switch. So this here, which I have mentioned before, but I'll put a link on the bottom. When I give the miter saw power, the shop vac right here turns on. So you can see, if you watch the hose, as soon as I give this power, that little switch is like 40 bucks, and it is most definitely worth it because you're not having to turn a shop vac on every time you want to use your miter saw. Now I have more random stuff on the wall. These are my sharpening stones. I have like a construction hammer, T-square, a bunch of bits, random air hoses, angle gauge, which this thing is awesome, definitely worth the buy here. And then I have my receiver for my sound system, which I have kicker speakers on each corner of the shop here. Well, it's the entire garage, and I actually have some outside too for the back patio. This whole bay here, or this whole little area here, will become a miter saw station. My plan is to build cabinets from the pile in there to the pile in there, and it's going to have cabinets underneath, and then I'm going to build some cabinets up top too, so I can house my sound system and whatever else. So that's going to be sometime in the future. It probably won't be until mid next year, if not later than that. However, I will make a video on that when the time comes. So this is also another crazy deal I got here, which is a drum sander. This is another one of those tools that you do not need by any means, but it is a luxury to have and is a game changer for some things, especially if you do end grain cutting boards. This is so nice to have. But I actually got this drum sander for $500. This is like a $1,200 machine that was in pretty good condition. I mean, damn near perfect condition when I bought it. I got this thing for $500 and I love it. I don't use it on every project at all, but the times you do need it, it is nice to have. It's easy to change out the sandpaper if you need to, and the dust collection is actually really good on here too. I just hook up the hose from my Harbor Freight collector on here, and like I said, everything's on casters. So I'll just roll this over that way and use it and then put it back up. This is a little bit of wood storage I do have in here. I always keep my leaf blower handy just because, easy to blow out dust. I'll open the garage doors and clean it out. Random stuff on the bottom. And then I have some jigs here. And then these are all just scraps, kind of bigger scraps, decent sized scraps, and then little pieces, which you know how it is. You never want to throw away wood because you might need it on the next project, even though a lot of this has been sitting for a while now. And then same thing over here along this wall here. I just kind of have a bunch of plywood scraps. And over here is where I keep my lumber, which of course this is not the proper way to store it by any means. It's just what I have at the moment. I have some pieces of hardy board on the bottom, so if water leaks in through the door or anything, I don't have to worry about moisture getting in on the ends. But I've got a bunch of different hardwoods. Eventually, I plan on making this wall here an entire lumber rack. I'm going to have kind of from the ceiling down to about right about there of just lumber rack, so I can put my long lumber over there, and I'm going to figure out some kind of solution different than what I have here for my little scrap pieces. So I don't have a video of making my workbench. This was actually one of the first little woodworking projects I did whenever I kind of started seriously getting into all this stuff. I made the workbench first, just out of all construction lumber and some melamine. And then it's the same thing with the table saw cart. I made the table saw cart so it's separate from the workbench itself, because whenever I originally built this, we were still working on the garage. So it was nice to be able to pull this out and pull it outside if I needed to, or wherever. However, if I was to do it again, I would make it all just one piece, because I really don't need it to be separate. Now, this was very simple construction I did here. It's, some half lap joints, and that's really about it. Got a shelf here to hold the table saw, and as you can see, a catch-all on the bottom, because that's all it is just a bunch of table saw blades and just random crap that ends up getting, thrown down there. I also have drawers that I added on each side just with some plywood, which same thing. You know how drawers go in a wood shop or any kind of shop, they just get filled with a bunch of random stuff, and that's kind of same thing here, nothing different. But it is nice to have a little bit of storage, because the only drawers I have in this entire place are those 4 there and the 4 I have here. Now the workbench itself, this was also all made out of construction lumber and melamine. I have 1 sheet of melamine on the bottom and then 2 sheets stacked on top of each other on the top. Having a melamine top is super nice because the glue pops off really easy. Now I've put some chips into it, so a lot of the dirt has kind of collected on here. It is what it is. It's a workbench at the end of the day. Eventually I'm going to build a nice hardwood one, but for the meantime, this works. I have a vise on the end. This is just a cheap little vise, which does come in handy. I do actually use it pretty often. I added some dog holes right in front of it, so I can use a little stopper like this, put it in here, and then you can lift up this on the vise and put your workpiece in between here and clamp it down. So if you're sanding, planing, chiseling, whatever, you got a little bit of an area to kind of hold something tight. Now underneath here is for the most part a catch-all, but it is a little bit organized. This is I keep my Festool dust collector here for whenever I use my sander, and the domino that is over there, I hook that up to here. This is its home. And then I have a rigid shop vac that's also on a switch, just like the miter saw. So when I turn the table saw on, this turns on. This little shop vac is really good. It's so small, it fills up quick. That is my biggest complaint behind it. But it does work pretty good. I keep a bunch of fasteners just in a little Harbor Freight plastic case down here. Just a bunch of different screws, brad nails, pin nails. Really all I need I can fill up and keep in there. And then I have all my fluids here, glue, mineral spirits, just epoxy, really just a bunch of random fluids, wood filler, tape. These are all router bits. And then you always got to keep some shop towels handy. And then I have like refills for sandpaper. So that's like sandpaper for my drum sander and stuff like that, which this is a bad spot to keep them. Eventually I want to build a tool chest to put everything in, but this is where I keep all my hand planes down here, along with my brad nailers. If there was one tool I would recommend saving your money on and not buying, because you're not going to use as much as you think you're going to, it would be the spindle sander. It's a sweet little sander. Like, don't get me wrong, it works great. But for the money, you could spend your money and get something that's more useful. I don't know. I kind of regret buying this. It wasn't too expensive. I think I spent $200 total on this thing, but I just never use it. Keeping up with that theme, same thing with the bandsaw. I think if I was to have a bigger one that was a lot more powerful, I would use it more often, but I just never use this thing. I mean, as you can see, it kind of has just become a shelf for random stuff. I made this sign with my laser engraver for when I was doing craft shows to hang on the tent so people knew who I was. And I kind of don't do the craft shows anymore, so I just stick this up here. This is my homemade track saw that I was using with a circular saw for a while, which since I bought my track saw, obviously I don't use it anymore. And then every now and then I do some work with hand tools. So I have a shooting board, all my chisels, and then this was one of the first hardwood projects I ever made, was a hammer, or a mallet, I'm sorry, which, it's going through the ringer a little bit now, but it's still holding strong. Something else I want to mention is these light bars. I got these off of Amazon. I think it was $160 or $180 for 10 of them. They are insanely bright. Highly, highly recommend if you are looking to light up your shop. I don't remember the brand name, but I will go through my orders, find it, and put a link in the description so you can see them. But I mean, they are insanely bright. It feels like it's daylight in here like all the time. Definitely worth the buy if you want to brighten up your shop. Like I said, it's a very small space, but honestly, it's all I really need at the moment. You know, eventually I would like to build myself an entire wood shop, as you know, most people would, but I don't know how feasible that is at the moment. Eventually that might become a thing. But for the meantime, I'm gonna keep up with my nice little shop, my little tiny shop, which I mean, I know a lot of people are in the same boat I am with just kind of having a small section to work things. These pylons do get in the way a lot, which that part is the biggest gripe I have, because I'd have a lot more room in here if it wasn't for the pylons, but that's what holds the house up. So can't really do anything about that. There's still a lot of stuff to be done in the shop to get it to be where I want it to be. But for the meantime, you know, it's working out with what I can. I got some projects coming up, so that's kind of pushing back the time on working on this garage some more. I'm actually going to be doing a huge 18-foot built-in pretty soon. I'll post a picture right here of kind of the rendering of it. If you guys want to see some of the process behind that, let me know, and I'll talk to the owners of the house and see if they're cool with me filming some of it. But I'll go ahead and include that in. That's going to be a few-week process because it's a pretty big project. If you've enjoyed what you see, if you want to see more of the projects that are to come, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot and helps me continue to make these videos and keep pushing forward. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's going to end up changing in this shop, so you can kind of see the progress of my woodworking journey and how things are going to go. So as always, get in your shop, build something, and stay salty.